right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Allison McWilliams. On behalf of Wake Forest Alumni Personal and Career Development Center, I want to welcome you to this webinar that we're really excited about. I think it's an incredibly important topic, how to know when it's time to go. Again, just some housekeeping details. We're going to ask everybody to be on mute and off of video for this. Except for our speaker, Hallie, who I'm going to introduce here in a moment. She's going to go for approximately 30 minutes, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. So if you will put those questions in the chat, we will get to them at the end. And after the webinar, we will follow up with all of Hallie's contact information in case you want to reach out to her for some additional consultation, additional resources and support, and as well as the recording and the slides and some additional information. I am also going to put into the chat here a handout that you all should be able to access for our time together as well. So let me do a quick introduction of Hallie. So she is a certified career coach, speaker, author based in Atlanta, where her coaching company helps people find and succeed in their dream job. Since 2002, her team of coaches have helped thousands of people, and she's regularly featured in the media, including U.S. News, Forbes, CNN, Money Magazine, and the Wall Street Journal. She has an undergraduate degree from Vanderbilt and a master's from the University of Illinois. She's experienced going through her own tough career transitions and is still learning to appreciate. I love this, that while she's over 50, she still gets asked on airplanes if she's old enough to sit in the emergency exit row, which I think is a delightful fun fact. So let us all welcome Hallie, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Allison. Greatly appreciate it. Yes, that is one of my fun facts. I am getting more gray hair up here. For a long time, it was underneath. I'll be 52 this year. So that fun fact may change. I'm excited to be here with you all today because I know there's a lot going on with the workforce, with the economy, everything else, politics, all that stuff that is, I think, impacting what we're thinking about in terms of our next steps career-wise. And regardless of all of those things, I do think, and we hear this from our clients all the time, that it is hard to know if it's time to make a move or not for me. Should I sit tight? Should I sit tight for a little while longer and then make a change? Do I need to make a change, at all or right now? So we're going to cover all of those or help you answer all of those questions today as much as we possibly can. We already did a great intro. Thanks for that. Really appreciate it. The advice that we're going to give you today is advice that we give to all of our clients to help them figure out what their next career move or step needs to be. We've worked with people on getting career clarity and on their career direction for a really long time, since 2002. And this topic is near and dear to my heart because it's the reason why I founded my business a long time ago, is to help people be clear and know what the right move is and when it's time to make that happen. Reminder that you're going to get the recording from today automatically. If you'd like to download the slides, you can check the chat box for that, and I encourage you to do so because I like to give a lot of information. I love what I do, and I try to give as much helpful information as possible on these webinars, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. So what I would suggest is if you can choose one action step that makes the most sense for you and resonates for you based on where you are in this process, then remember, you can revisit everything later to pick up on those additional action items. So let's go ahead and dive in. When we're curious or wondering about or uncertain about whether to make a move or a change or not, there's a lot that goes on or plays into trying to make this decision, which is why it can be so confusing for people. I kind of joke that when our clients come to us, they tend to feel like they're in spin cycle in the dryer. Like, well, there's this factor and this factor, and how do I know which way is up? And how do I make a really good decision for myself? And if you look at this next slide, there's all these different factors that come into play. The working, going back into the office full time. Sometimes people love that, sometimes people don't. We've got technology, AI, and how that's changing the way we work and can impact whether we want to stay doing what we're doing. The same thing in the middle of the slide here with industry changes, the economy, all this other stuff that's going on. And so one of the first things that we would recommend as an initial action item is for you to sit for like 5 minutes. Doesn't have to take that long, like tonight before you go to bed, whatever it is, or the rest of today, and consider how long you have felt this way before making a decision about whether it's time to make a move. Because sometimes with our clients, we find that, well, it's only been this long, for example, and it may, once we identify what is not working for them and why they're considering making a move, we start to identify themes and, okay, well, this is a passing phase, maybe because of what's going on now at your workplace. And it will get better, or what project they're working on, or what client they're working with, or whatever it is. Is it a passing phase or a long-term problem? And this is part of what we want you to be thinking about. Now, I'll tell you, and then we'll go to our agenda on the next slide here, and I'll show you where we're going today. What I'll tell you is a lot of our clients, when they come to us, they will say, I've been thinking about this on and off for years. But in some cases, it could be a passing phase. So you need to think about, okay, is this something that is not going to change anytime soon and I do need to make a move? Or is it something that like it's a short term, let me make some changes now while I can and see if that helps and then let things play out a little bit more. So here's our agenda for today. Like we said, we're going to do about 30 minutes, give or take, of content. We're going to talk about why it's important to be satisfied in your job as, close as you possibly can to the right fit for you. We'll talk about 8 red flags for you to know if you're in the wrong fit and if it is time to make a move. We'll show you our ideal career model and how you can use that as a checklist to say, is my current job fitting all of these or filling all of these boxes? And then, as Allison said earlier, we will have time for Q&A at the end. You can grab the slides through the chat box. There's a link there, or you can use the QR code here. And please feel free as we progress today, go ahead and put questions in the chat box anytime, because like I said, I'll answer those at the end, but don't feel like you have to hold them till the end. So the reason why this is an important topic, if we look at our first action step or agenda item for today, is we don't want you to be like the man on the screen. Too many people are not engaged at work. I would say every few years, there are new polls from the Gallup organization, the Conference Board, et cetera, that will come out and they'll gauge people's satisfaction at work. And usually the numbers aren't good. And the reason why it's important to try to be in a good fit work-wise as much as possible is, as we all know, it can take a toll on our quality of life, not just inside of work, but outside of work too. And we want to make sure that we are as fulfilled, rewarded as possible at work because we spend a lot of time there too. If we look on the next slide here, there's a lot of different reasons why we can get stuck in a job that doesn't fit. And so please know you're not alone. This happens all the time. This is why we've been doing what we've been doing since 2002 for a long time. Clients will tell us lots of different things about why they chose their job or why they're feeling stuck in it. I'm really good at this, but it's no longer rewarding for me, is one thing we'll hear. Some people will tell us, I feel like the salary and benefits are great, and it's kind of like the golden handcuffs, like enough discomfort to force me to really make a move. So there's a lot of different reasons there, and it's worth thinking about if this has happened to you and asking yourself as another kind of quick journaling exercise on the left-hand side, why are you in your current job? Give us the reasons. Like, I don't think we think about this enough. And to make a quick list and say, okay, let me review this list. Are these the right reasons? Am I staying in this position for good reasons or ones that, really aren't the right ones for me, or I'm not making the choices that I want to? So a second really good action item is to just ask yourself, so why am I here and why am I staying? and evaluate that. There's something really valuable about writing things down and seeing it in black and white on paper because you can start to be more objective about what's really going on so you can make an assessment of what you want to do next. Now, the next thing that we want to think about and kind of tell you a couple of things here is that part of what we want our clients to consider when they're working with us is, do they need to make a really large change or a smaller change, like a course correction? And we want you to think in terms of a spectrum here because sometimes people are able to make a course correction or a shift versus a really big change. Even when they come to us at the beginning, let's say, and they're like, oh my gosh, I need to go do something completely different. We had a client in Chicago that worked at one of the big four consulting firms. And when she first came to us, she's like, some days I think I need to go be a chef. So it's a good idea to also think about and write down what works for you in your current career path and job and what doesn't work. How many things do you have on both of those lists? And what are the themes that you're seeing between those lists? Is it really mostly about, for example, the work environment that you're in versus, oh, I need to go change my role and industry and everything else? And the thing that we tell people is that the good news is that you can feel engaged and fulfilled and be in the right fit in terms of a job. It's possible. That's what we've been doing for years for a reason. And we love what we do because we get all these really great emails. I'm in my brand new job that I love. Thank you so much. Okay, great. The second thing is that it's usually less dramatic of a change than you think you need to make. A lot of times when people come to us totally understandably, they're so frustrated, confused, upset, whatever it is, and they're just not sure what they need to do, that they feel like they need to start all the way over at the beginning and make a really big change. Usually you don't have to. Before we get to our red flag test, I do want to let you know that we tell people too that I'm not sitting here saying, like, oh, do what you love and the money will follow. And there's this magic wand, and every single day or minute of your workday is going to be perfect. That's not realistic. We want people to a couple of things. Number one, evaluate being in the right fit or not now and what your next options are, not based on like perfection, but to say, okay, look, I want to look for a position or job or my next step. You want the good parts about what you do work-wise to so far outweigh the parts that you don't like as much that you barely notice those. And you can compromise on them, right? Because there's always going to be some issues where I don't like my coworker as much as I'd like to, or whatever it is. Like stuff's going to happen. But what we find is when you are at choice about where you're compromising, and when you go and look out there for all the different types of jobs that exist, because there are so many things out there that we don't even know exist as possible jobs, you can get a lot closer to something that's really rewarding and fulfilling to you. And when you choose and say, you know what, I'm going to get all this stuff here that I really, really want, I can deal with that other stuff versus feeling like you just got, like stuck in something, it feels light years better and different. And I'll tell you too, I do believe to a certain extent about the do what you love and the money will follow. But I don't agree with it in the sense that I love what I do, but I worked very hard since 2002 to get to this point. It's hard work. It just doesn't always feel like work for me because I enjoy it. So that's a little caveat there just to let you know. All right, so let's talk next about the red flags for you to know that you are definitely in the wrong fit. So remember, and feel free to put any comments or questions in the chat box too. If you've got any resources that you'd like to share, we'd love to hear those as well. And I kind of think this is funny, right? Because in a way, with this red flag image, we're on the beach and that's really nice, but we all know what the red flag on the beach means. So these are the things we want you to think about. So as a starting point, as we said earlier, listing out why you're in your current position. Are they the right or wrong reasons? Number two, listing out what works for you in your current position and what doesn't work. Are there things on that list that you can change and improve, or is most of it out of your control and maybe you may need to make a shift? So the first red flag, if we look at the first four on this next slide here, if you don't just have, we all know about the Monday morning blues, not excited to go to work Monday morning. And sometimes I'm like that too. So like I said, it's not always perfection. But if you really dread, like really dread getting out of bed and going to work every single morning, that's not a good thing. You should not be in that position. And like I said earlier, we're not saying you're going to be jazzed every single second of the day, but I will tell you the majority of my day and the majority, like well over 50%, like 60 to 80% of the time for me, I'm excited to do my job and do my work. And so we want you to move that percentage up. So that's number one red flag. Number two, if your work relationships and your performance is suffering in any way, shape, or form, that's a red flag that you are not in the right fit. We want you to think about and consider, are there things I can do about this? And this is what we coach people on all the time, is while we're helping them figure out and get career clarity, we're talking with them about how to improve things where they are now, just so they start to feel a little bit better. In some cases we can, in some cases it's harder to do so. And number three, if you don't get any joy or any satisfaction, sense of accomplishment or anything out of your job, bad sign there. And number four, if you've got senioritis, like my high school junior, I think already has, you've started to slack off and really don't have that much motivation for what you do, that's a red flag as well. So take a moment, if you would, to kind of write down which ones of these or how many of them relate to you. Remember, you can get the slides from the link in the chat box, because we're going to ask you in just a moment in a poll where you land in terms of these 8 red flags. The next 4 are, if you feel like you have to kind of become someone else at work, like you can't be your true authentic self. Now, we're not saying you're letting everything hang out, because we all have professional, a professional persona, like we need to behave professionally, of course. But if you're feeling like you just really don't fit in, you have to like almost pretzel yourself into someone else to like be, accomplish things at work and be at your current job, that's not a good thing. You should be able to feel like you can be yourself, at least to a certain extent, at the position that you're in. That's too stressful otherwise. If number 6, your job does not make use of your talents, you are not going to be fulfilled in the long run. So if you're not leveraging your strengths and skills or your talents on a pretty regular basis, that relates to your fulfillment at your job. It's not just about being successful and whether you're doing a good job and your performance is good, but it relates to your satisfaction as well. Number 7, I know we've all experienced ourselves, me too, and with friends and family. If you spend the majority of your time when you're talking about your job complaining about it, not a good sign. And then finally, number 8 may seem like a weird one, and I'll give you a quick story and example here. If you kind of fantasize in a way about quitting, being fired, or let go, then that's a really, really bad sign. So the reason why we say this, um, one time we had a client, she had worked with one of our coaches one week, and then the next week had a session. And a minute or so in, the coach was like, "You sound really good this week. What happened?" And the client literally said, "I got fired last week, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me." Now, we're not saying that that's the case for everyone, of course, but that was the push that she needed in order to do something about this, make a change, find something new, etc. So if any of this goes on in your head, huge red flag. So let's look at our results. And Allison, if we could launch our first poll here, that'd be great. If you've got 1 or 2 red flags, you may just be going through a rough patch and you want to evaluate if this is the case for you. I would suggest reevaluating in like 2 or 3 months. Use some of the tools that we're talking about today, make some other progress to, improve where you are now, and then see. But put it on your calendar so you don't forget to reevaluate, because that's what happens to people and why they come to us and say, "I've been thinking about this for like 2 or 5 years." If you look at the second place here or category, 3 or 4 red flags. You're probably not in the right career, but you may be closer to your ideal than you think you are. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater like we were talking about earlier. Write down what works and what doesn't work to get started. And we'll show you our model here in a minute to help you evaluate what types of changes you may need to be making. And if you've got 5 or more, it's definitely time to make a change. And it looks like, at least so far, we've got a lot of people participating in the poll. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Most people are saying, yes, it is. And that's totally fair. That's why you're here today. And for those of you, at least so far, who are saying no, this doesn't mean that no, you should stay where you are, forever. Do this evaluation like we've talked about so that you can determine, okay, maybe I don't need to make a move right now, but let me reevaluate in like 3 or 6 months. Or maybe I need to make a change, but it's not as dramatic, and I can give myself, sorry, a little bit more time in order to figure out what's next. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll end the poll and then share the results. So either way, part of why we do these is to know too that you're not alone, that this is normal to feel this way. And it's normal to feel this way regardless of situation, life stage, career stage. It happens to people at all different phases in terms of their career and in different industries too. All right, so let's look at our next step, and this is reviewing and taking a closer look at our ideal career model. And I encourage you, and on the next slide, it's going to be a little bit bigger, but I encourage you to get the slides, print this out, because here's the deal with the model is it helps you be more objective and make the right choices rationally about what's the right next best step for me. It also enables you to consider all of the really necessary components of the right fit. So we want people to review each piece one by one, carefully, step by step. This doesn't have to take 3 hours, but the whole reason why I developed this model pretty quickly after I started coaching in 2002 is I wanted to have something that people could look at quickly and easily understand. It didn't have to help or have someone else interpret like their Myers-Briggs results and all of that. I think those assessments are fantastic, but I wanted a simple, easy tool for people to say, okay, just tell me the things that I need to be thinking about and how I can, make sure I'm checking all of the categories I need to consider. And this is what came out of that. So regardless of where you fell on the I need to stay or go, we encourage you to leverage the model. So I'll show you the different pieces here for just a moment. And the pieces, we recommend that you actually leverage them and go through them in the order that we're presenting them today. Remember, you can get the slides by going in the link in the chat box to use this and print it out later if you want. So we actually want people to think about what's most fulfilling and rewarding to them first, because even though it may seem like, well, Hallie, I got to get paid well, compensation is really important. I have to be practical. Absolutely. But when you think about and consider fulfillment and brainstorm ideas about your next direction and understand what your values are at the beginning, you're going to come up with more ideas about what could be possibly a good fit for you than you would otherwise. So we like for people to have like a really wide funnel, big list of ideas that they can then narrow down based on the practical considerations as they go. So fulfillment is your values and what would be rewarding to you job-wise. Interests are the tasks that you're drawn to, the types of projects that you like to perform. This gives you ideas about what you might want to do as well. But these things, fulfillment is deep-seated, like reward and accomplishment, and interests are more things that are kind of fun for you to do as well as an add-on as part of your job. We want you to look at and consider and really understand what your top 5 strengths are, for example. That can help you brainstorm ideas. But what you want to be doing is asking yourself, does my current job fulfill me? Do the tasks I'm performing interest me for the most part? Am I leveraging my strengths in the way I want to at my current job? Then we want you to look at your experience in your education. So, your education at Wake and otherwise outside of that too, and your past experience. Does your current position make use of these in a way that you want it to? Right? So, when I thought about the ideal career for me, it was interesting. This was a long time ago before I became a coach. And I thought about the classes I took at Vanderbilt, and I was like, oh, I loved my psychology classes. I loved my interpersonal communication classes. That gave me clues to I want to work with people, educate, that type of thing. We then want you to ask yourself, does this job fit with my personality type? Am I more introverted or extroverted, more of a leader, big picture strategic thinker, or more of a detail oriented person? So, personality type is huge. People can be in the right job or the right type of role, but have the wrong, let's say, work environment, or they might be an introvert, for example, in an extroverted job, and they're exhausted every day. And that's the reason it's not the right fit. So, you need to think about personality type, please. And then finally, the last two are not less important, but they, again, we're narrowing down ideas, like we said. Work environment is huge. A lot of our clients, not all of them, but a lot of them find out that it's the work environment for them. And they make a course correction and say, ooh, I can stay doing, something similar to what I've been doing. I just need to do it in a different place. Sometimes that's the case. Is the work environment where you are now, remembering it's not always going to be absolute perfection, is it an okay fit for you? And then finally, compensation, hugely important. Are you compensated adequately in a way that makes you feel like you're valued, et cetera? Really quickly before we start to move to our Q&A for today too, so go ahead and plop those in there. I always want to offer a free consult to people. If you would like to learn more about our services, you can feel free to schedule a quick time with me. We can figure out if it's the right fit. If you do that, please mention that you came from our webinar today and from Wake so that we can give you a discount on our services, because we always give a discount for our Wake Forest alum. You can also use the QR code to do that, and there's a link in the chat box to schedule the consult. It's free. There's no obligation. Allows you to give a sense of how we work and if it would help you at this point and how it might help. Two other things before we move to our Q&A here in a moment is that we do find, in addition to leveraging our model, taking a career assessment or any kind of assessment like StrengthsFinder, et cetera, can actually help you get clarity about what's next. What we want you to remember, and we'll launch our second poll, and this should be our last poll for today too. If anyone has taken an assessment, curious about that. So, a couple things about these assessments. The reason why we like them is because there's pros and cons. The pros are they tend to give you pretty accurate information. Some people think they can trick them, but usually it's hard to do so. Accurate information in a short period of time. Okay. The cons about the assessments, though, is they're one piece of the larger puzzle. So some people will come to us and say, okay, so I took this test online and it told me I should be like a circus clown or something that was crazy and they would have no interest in or wouldn't pay them well enough, etc. And the reason why that happens with these assessments, and I'll just go back to the previous slide here, they're usually testing you for one of these components, not all of them. So they might be telling you, hey, you'd be good at this, or these are some of your interests, or these would be good for your personality type. But it's not considering work environment, fulfillment, all that other good stuff. So please don't think that the assessment or test is broken. It's a one piece of the puzzle. So you want to make sure that you're incorporating all of these other pieces to be safe and use that information to help you get clarity about that one piece. And we've got 67%, thanks for participating in our poll, have taken an assessment, which is fantastic. I would love to hear if you could put in the chat box which assessment you took and if you liked it and if you found it helpful. We usually do find that people love them in conjunction with the other things that we're talking about. And then for those of you who haven't, no problem. You're not alone, that 33%. There's lots of different options to be able to take those. And we've got one person saying StrengthsFinder and also another saying that and Myers-Briggs. These are fantastic. And what we love about these, and we'll go to this next slide, is, like I said, it's really good in-depth information about yourself. And like strong interest inventory is really great too, because it helps point out and helps you clarify your interests. In some cases, like StrengthsFinder, for example, and Myers-Briggs helps you not just clarify, but articulate what your strengths are, and you can use that on your resume, LinkedIn, and in an interview. So they're good in that way. But like we said, with career direction, you've got to think outside the box and think about the other things. So a couple of other things that you do want to consider when you're thinking about staying or going and being wise about this. And here's the deal with this. While we can't control, and we've heard this before, what is going on outside of us, we can control how we react to it, right? So if you determine after looking at this next slide of, okay, my industry's kind of struggling. I'm not sure that I want to make a shift into another similar organization because hiring may not be great right now, or there's layoffs happening, so I'm going to stay put. Make a plan for yourself. Don't just say, I'm going to stay put and that's it. Say, okay, I'm going to stay put for another 3 months. I'm going to put an item on my calendar or task on my calendar to revisit at that point. And then in the meantime, I'm going to take some LinkedIn learning courses, skill building things to boost up my resume and do things with networking, etc., to start to like get ready for a possible search if I need to do that. The other thing that you consider listed on this slide, and then we'll go to our Q&A, is consider what else you might be happy with or what it might improve things where you are now if you can't make a change or don't think it's the right thing to do at this time. Go ahead and start making improvements. Do you need to ask for, or can you ask for a little bit more flex time or schedule shift, come in early or late, whatever it is? A title change, a bonus. Do you need to start like taking more breaks during your workday so that you can stay fresh and motivated, even if it's just during my lunchtime? I get out and I walk around the building just to get some fresh air. Like these things don't have to be huge, enormous changes in order to help you feel better now where you are. And then you could say, okay, I'm going to evaluate in a few more months and see if that helped. All right. So we talked at the beginning about writing down one action step. We'd love it if you would share that in the chat box. What's the best action step for you? Is it revisit my assessment results? Is it I'm going to take a look at the career model? Is it I'm going to write down why I'm in my current job and see if it's, the right or wrong reasons? So go ahead and share those in the chat box for us because we'd love to hear those. And on this slide too, here is a reminder if you need to get the slides. I know a few people joined a little bit later. Remember that you'll get the recording automatically from today. So that will come directly to you. And then the slides, like we said, you can get this way. So Allison, thank you for sharing yours as a starting point. Reflect on my why. It's a great step. And I totally agree with that. And I would reflect on your why at least twice a year. Like I know that people tend to do this at the beginning of the year, right? Because it's new year, okay, need to freshen things up. But I honestly want people to do this almost every quarter because here's the deal with this. And we had someone else sharing revisit my assessment results. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. And this email just came into my inbox today and it's speaking our language because what we argue about or assert, I should say, is that we want people to create their career path. If you are more just mindful and proactive about what your next steps are, then you are going to be able to get into the right fit in the long run. And sometimes you're able to make adjustments where you are now to get it to be the right place you want it to be, or make a move. Oh, shoot, the link to the slides. I'm wondering about that. Hold on. I'm sorry, everybody. Let me make sure I got the right ones for you because I might have put there. And thank you for pointing that out. Oh, yeah, I put the wrong one, I think. Thank you so much for saying great session and all that good stuff. Let me put the link. Oh, and let me send this to everybody too. Okay, let's try that one. I'm going to try it right now also. So thanks for that. This is the right one. Yes. Okay. So the correct link for the slides is in the chat now. So creating your career path, the name of our organization is like that for a reason, that it's being mindful and not saying, for example, okay, I got stuck in this or I fell into this job and now I've been here for 10 years or whatever, but being more mindful of what your next steps are will help you get into the right fit long term. So while we're waiting, if there are any other questions, Allison, is there anything you'd like to say, announce, or
Yeah.
share about upcoming events?
Well, and I would love, yeah, if anybody has any questions, we have a few minutes here. Please put them in the chat. And I would love to hear you talk about a couple of things. So number one, kind of the timing piece of all of this, right? So I've figured out, yeah, maybe I need to do something different. Like, how quickly should I act on that and move forward? And then maybe you could also talk about, if someone does reach out to you and ask for the use of your services, what's that experience like working with you and your team?
Yeah, thanks. So here's what I would say about the timing of taking action. So what I want people to do, honestly, related to what we talked about today, is take action right away and right now. Look at the model, for example, and say, okay, what are the missing pieces here? And what can I start to do like today in order to move the needle into a better place for myself? Because this, if nothing else, too, even if you can't control, obviously, which nobody can, everything that's going on at your job, being more proactive like this and mindful is a good skill to have in the long run because instead of just staying put or staying stuck, you're being conscious about, okay, what is the right next thing for me and how do I morph and change things or move things in the right direction? And then, as part of answering that, and hopefully this helps answer too, like if you're doing those types of things, especially for this year, it's a new year, it's the beginning of the year. We just had an election, there's so much going on. If you're saying, look, I want to make a move, but I'm not sure if it's the smartest thing to do right now, I would say two things. Let's give it like through Q1 of this year to kind of see where things land and play out a little bit more and kind of settle the end of this first quarter. But as part of that, during this time, I would start to network with your fellow Wake Forest alum. That's a great way to leverage your alumni association to kind of gauge what's going on. What do other people think? What do they see coming? You're expanding your network, and they don't pay me to do this. We tell all of our clients to leverage their alumni network, really important tool to just like expand your network and improve that, but also like get the lay of the land a little bit about what's going on. So give yourself like that amount of time, but be doing things in the meantime, not just kind of sitting there and waiting. And I'll answer the next question. We've got a great action step in the chat. Thank you. Work-life balance worksheet. Analyze the benefits of staying versus benefits of leaving. This is a great additional action item too. And ways to improve current job if possible. This is fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Looking at your values, for example, is a great way to help with that too. And for the next question about working with us. So we work with clients in a certain number of sessions. So we've got bundles of 4 and 6 sessions. We also have courses that people can take and purchase if they want to work a little bit more solo on their own and then add on coaching. The bundles are more one-on-one live coaching where you fill out an intake form for us, we identify your goals, and we've got a lot of resources, tips, and tricks and exercises to help you determine, leveraging our model, what the right next step is, and also how to make improvements in your current job and make that plan in the long run. So they're live one-on-one sessions where you've got that talk time with an expert on our team that can help you be rational and realistic, but also find and figure out how to be motivated and excited about your job again.
I love that. Thank you. Because sometimes, yeah, right. That's where we have to start is, it's not just jumping to that next thing, but how do I make my life better where it currently exists while I'm also doing the work to figure out what might be next for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of need to do both. And I don't want people to feel overwhelmed by it because, like we said, the exercises we talked about today, they don't take that long. It's just being more mindful and self-reflective along the way versus just kind of like going with it just because that's what we're used to. So
Well,
hopefully,
Hallie, thank you so much for your time. We so appreciate it and all this great information that you shared. And for everyone being here, again, we will send out a recording, which obviously will include the slides, but will also include the link to the slides, some additional resources and information if you have interest in following up with Hallie. And hopefully we can have you back again in the future for another topic. But we just so appreciate you being here. And a reminder, if you do reach out to her, remind her that you are, you were here and that you are a Wake Forest person. And there's a little benefit that comes with that too. So thank you so much. And thanks to everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
thank you. Good luck, everybody. Thanks for being here.